Valentine's Day. The joy, the hope, the warmth, the light that is Christmas receded into the cold, dark, wet days of January. January, the month with no end, with no joy. But there is hope. By the end of January, the days had lengthened, and it was still light when I left work. But just as this first green shoot of hope appears, it is crushed by the horror that is Valentine's Day. This particular Valentine's Day found me single and alone. Yeah, I know. What woman wouldn't want this? I could only think that my irresistibility was too much for women and they just couldn't cope. Well, for whatever reason, I just didn't appeal to some women. Okay, lots of women found me unappealing. Oh, all right, the majority of women found me totally resistible. But the point I'm making is, the Valentine's Day industry crammed my singleness down my throat. I had no one for whom I could buy a giant Valentine's card. No one for whom I could buy a huge teddy bear clutching a heart. No one for whom I could buy a dozen red, very overpriced roses. I had no reason to buy heart-shaped chocolates. Well, except for a few weeks later when they were in the sale and I bought them for myself. Well, they say that self-love is the first step to true happiness. And as we says round here, 'cause I's worth it. So Valentine's evening found me queuing alone in the supermarket. I had a pile of garlic bread, a pile of pizza and beer. And I watched as two sad saps straight from a building site came in. And they openly queued, clutching the giant card, the huge teddy bear, the heart-shaped chocolates. They had no embarrassment, no shame. And these looked two tough geezers. But they were too afraid to go home without their sacrificial teddy bear, because they knew their lives would be hell if they didn't conform to that tyrant of love, St Valentine. Well, that evening, my single mates all came round. I boasted about how I hadn't been sucked in by the crass commercialism of Valentine's Day, of how I hadn't bowed to that tyrant of love, neatly sidestepping the point that I had actually had no one to buy the stuff for. I boasted about how much money I had saved. Money which I'd just blown on garlic bread, pizza and beer. Deep into that evening, I looked blearily around my mates and thought, I can understand why he's still single, but why me? I woke up the next morning relieved at having survived another Valentine's Day, relieved that the horror was over for another year. But my victory was a little bit hollow because I had a hangover and I was still single. And I shouldn't be smug or criticise the saps in the supermarket, because, listener, I have been him. For a couple of years, I went out with a girl who was really into the St Valentine's thing, the whole cards and bears and chocolates and flowers. And I went along with it, to a point, because I knew what would happen if I didn't. But I like to think that the 2 years we spent together, I gradually wore her down. And I like to think that I cured her of her terrible St Valentine's affliction. And then I met Mrs Snowbarger. And this will be our 23rd Valentine's Day together. And I'm pleased to say we are kindred Valentine spirits. We both hate the crass commercialism. We hate that we're being forced into buying something we don't want to give to somebody who doesn't want it to try and prove that we love them on one day of the year. And then, quite by accident, we came across our perfect solution. There is a high street chocolate emporium that has outlet shops, and in January they sell off their Christmas stock. So there's chocolate penguins, chocolate snowmen, advent calendars. Advent calendars for couples with 2 chocolates every day. Oh, what better way to show our love for each other, our love for chocolates, our love for a bargain? What better way to celebrate St Valentine's Day? What better way to stick it to that love tyrant than a half-priced chocolate advent calendar?